71 years ago today, Brian Johnson was born. The English singer and songwriter in 1980 became the lead singer for the Australian rock band AC/DC after the death of lead singer Bon Scott. He and the rest of the band were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2003. In March of 2016, Brian Johnson stepped down from touring on the Rock or Bust World Tour due to hearing problems. On May 20th, 2016, Brian Johnson stated in an interview, I've had a pretty good run in AC/DC, and implied that he might not be returning by saying, I'm just thankful, really, that I came out of it in one piece. AC/DC, for the people that don't know, is an Australian rock band formed in Sydney in 1973 by brothers Malcolm and Angus Young. In 1974, the legendary Bon Scott would join the band to give us such classics as
Oh
It's a
yeah.
Long Way to the Top if you want to rock and roll. Brian Johnson was one of the founding members of the rock band Geordie, formed in Newcastle in 1971. After a few hit singles, including UK Top 10 All Because of You, the band called it quits in the late 70s. After a night on the town in London, AC/DC's lead singer Bon Scott died on February 19th, 1980. AC/DC was very fortunate to find somebody that sounded like Bon Scott and Brian Johnson. When he was asked to audition for the band in London, AC/DC lead guitarist and co-founder Angus Young recalled, I remember Bon playing me Little Richard and then telling me the story of when he saw Brian singing. He says about that night, there's this guy up there screaming at the top of his lungs, and then the next thing you know, he hits the deck. He's on the floor, rolling around and screaming. I thought it was great. And then to top it off, you couldn't get a better encore. They came in and wheeled the guy off. The band agreed immediately that Johnson's performing style fit AC/DC's music. Johnson's first album with AC/DC, Back in Black, became the second all-time best-selling album worldwide.
Brian Johnson is fucking amazing. 100%. But we have to give it up a little bit to Bon Scott. And Bon Scott was so fucking amazing. He wrote a lot of songs for ACDC. He was their front man. And Long Way to the Top to Rock and Roll is fucking deep as fuck. If you listen, I know ACDC is more of a thrash band. Like you listen to it, you just bumping your head and shit. Almost like you bump into your head to like some hip hop, song and shit that you really like. But this song, you know what I'm saying? It's like you have to understand it's a different level. But I love Brian Johnson. And this is about fucking Brian Johnson. Lobo's thoughts on Brian Johnson, ACDC. This guy, Brian Johnson, was a guy who took the fucking ball and fucking ran with it, though, man. Not only that, it wasn't like, oh, like how like they had like David Lee Roth and Van Halen, and they had like, and they had Sammy Hagar later, and they had like a different sound for every lead singer that they have. ACDC always had the same fucking sound, man. That was great about them. And what was great about them is that when he got Brian Johnson, just like, listen, man, we kind of want to keep that sound. And they had a guy who legit sounded like the fucking guy who already had credibility. And I'm telling you right now, dude, during this fucking time, you want to talk about back in the days, man, we're talking about like the fucking 70s and shit, man. It was a complete rougher and tougher time. There was no internet. You had to go to the shows to experience the motherfucking band. You know what I'm talking about? The classic fucking bands. AC/DC was always a band that always held up. That was from that era. They had different singers. Most people don't know that. Brian Johnson was the man. But I have to admit though, man, during the time of ACDC, there was, to me, I think it was a great time of just music in general. And we have to admit, the classic bands were a fucking classic indeed. What's some of the bands that you liked?
Well, one of my favorite classic bands of all time is definitely Leonard Skinner, without a doubt. I mean, they
Oh
are the
yeah.
70s.
Oh
They
yeah.
bleed the
Fuck yeah.
70s. They
Fuck
died
yeah.
in the 70s. They
Fuck yeah.
are the 70s, in my opinion. When I
Fuck yeah,
think of
yeah.
that time, classic rock, I mean, to me, man, a lot of people might, give me a little hate for this one, but Alan Collins is one of the greatest guitarists I've ever heard. That
Right.
solo from from Freebird.
I
That's
don't think
him.
I don't think anybody will give you shit for that. Anybody who knows fucking
I mean, yeah, like the
Leonard
guitar
Skinner.
music. Yeah,
I mean,
like
and here's the thing, just for the I know everybody's gonna roll their eyes what I'm gonna say right now. Everybody who's listening to this and they made it this far. How did Leonard Skinner, ladies and obviously everybody can raise their hand. How did Leonard Skinner get their name? How did they get their name for their fucking the most infamous band in the world in American history? How did they get their name? Leonard Skinner.
well, it's funny you asked that. They got that name from their gym coach. Their gym coach was not a big fan of them because they had long hair. They were rebels,
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, this was back in the day. I mean, we're talking
Honestly.
'60s.
Right.
Yeah, early '60s type stuff. So, I mean, they were still kids, and he did not like them. He would actually tell them to go to the office because the way they looked. These guys were they
Yeah.
did not look the part because back then you had to have a certain haircut. When you went
Sure,
to school, people
and
don't
you have to
know.
understand. This is what I'm saying, though, man. See, I don't know how it is this day and age. Maybe I'm a little bit out of touch, but back in the days, it used to be about fucking rock and roll, man. It was like, hey, listen, man. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this kid, oh, I want to go shoot at my fucking school. It was like, oh, hey, I'm a little bit of a rebel. I got long hair. They're telling me to cut it. I'm not gonna cut it. I'm a part of Lynyrd Skinner, man. And this guy's fucking they all died in a plane crash and shit, which is unfortunate, right?
Well, not all of them died. I
Really?
believe Steve Gaines, Ronnie, the lead singer, and Steve Gaines' sister died. But the
Unfortunate.
rest of them were really mangled. Like, Alan's legs were screwed up. He couldn't play like standing up anymore. They all. I mean, the only original surviving member is Gary Rossington. He still plays with the band. He's an original. He's the
So,
only
so, so,
guy.
so let me ask you something. Obviously, they had hits like "Sweet Home Alabama" and "Freebird" and all these other songs. But I mean, have they ever like is Lynyrd Skinner still like a great band? Is touring? That people
Let
accept
me
the
tell you
fact
something
that
about Leonard Skinner. And this, I will say this
go on, Zach,
with
go
my
on.
heart. Leonard Skinner wrote, in my opinion, some of the greatest music. I'm not talking about rock and roll, but music. You talk about songs like Give Me Back My Bullets, Saturday Night Special, That Smell. I mean, I can go on and on. Roll
Right.
Gypsy Roll, Whiskey
Okay.
Rock and Roller. I can go on and on. Every song from Skinner was an A+ song. You knew what you got with Ronnie. You got soul. And you had 3 guitar players. You had a hell of a drummer. I mean, they like Leonard Skinner, in my opinion, will live on forever in that scene because people still play Freebird, Simple Man,
Of
Sweet Home
course.
Alabama.
Right,
I mean, those
sure.
are their big hits, but I like, there's stuff that people don't really know, like, I mean, I don't know, like a few of those songs that I just named off. I mean,
But but I'll say this though. I understand that you got a lot of songs that you don't know, but there's a lot of people who knows the popular shit, which is nothing wrong with that either. You know what I mean? And I know one thing, they totally slammed Neil Young. You know, it's like, oh, a Southern man, don't need him around anyhow. And he was like from Canada. Like, what's the deal with that? Fuck off, Neil Young. I'm just saying, don't get me twisted. Oh man, it was a great song and everything. Neil Young was great. He was great in the harmonica and everything. But hey, I think it was like the original first rap beef. I think Lynyrd Skinner totally kicked the shit out of Neil Young and that whole thing. Neil Young's from Canada. I'm saying not for nothing though.
Yeah, I mean, that was a weird one because Neil back then, he was based out of California, even though he was Canadian. He got that record deal out of Toronto,
Mm.
and yeah, he was kind of looked on as a hippie, and he wanted to push this like a
Hippie.
progressive movement.
Right.
And the thing about Skinner is they're all about tradition. If you know anything
Nice.
about them, they're
Skinner
all Southern
riff.
boys.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're about that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? And that's fucked up what happened to them. I wish Skinner was still alive because I'll tell you this right
They
now,
still
right?
make records. I mean, his brother's the singer,
Listen,
Ronnie's brother. Yeah,
and,
does
and
the
listen,
singing.
and dude, not for nothing. Big up to Brian Johnson. Big up to ACDC. They fucking rule. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. ACDC said it best. I love Thunderstruck personally, but I'll tell you one thing that I do dislike is the fact that Fatso Rose, everybody knows Fatso Rose, aka Axel Rose. He stinks. I hate the guy. Brian Johnson lost his hearing, right? And that's what they're saying, right? That's to me, that's a true way for a rock and roller to go out. Like, dude, I lost my hearing. I can't even hear no more. I can still rock, but I can't hear anymore. So I'll probably be out of tune and out of key. But Fatso Rose, Fuck off. You know why I say fuck off to that fat piece of shit? Because back then, when he was doing Guns N' Roses, people paid like $275 to go see. And I know $75 is nothing in this day and age, but back then that was a big deal. And you go pay, and you pay and shit. Metallica was opening, and then fucking like Guns N' Roses was headlining, and then Fatso Rose when he didn't come out. Fuck him. What a piece of shit. Great bands, AC/DC. Holy shit, Leonard Skinner. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, Heap Sack.
Fuck yeah. Let me ask you a real quick question.
All right.
Before, I mean, we wrap this up.
Sure.
What, I mean, you're probably going to say, and I know what it is, but what was the first song that introduced you to AC/DC? Because I remember mine, but what was yours?
Well, I think that it has to be Highway to Hell. Highway to Hell truly has to have been like the first song that gave me onto it. Obviously, if you know AC/DC, you would know that they do a lot of better songs than that. They've done a lot of memorable more songs than that. But Thunderstruck is my favorite. Is also that song that everybody knows. And to me, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. And if you listen to those lyrics, I think, Heap Sack will agree. God damn it. Gee damn it. God darnish. It says a lot on that song, right?
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What's your opinion on Fatso Rose?
Well, I don't really have like any opinions on him. I mean, the fact that he's the lead singer of AC/DC is a bit strange.
Yuck.
Yeah. But I don't have anything. I mean, he was good in Guns N' Roses. I like some of their stuff.
He was, I guess, but he was more of a studio guy. He could sing like real nice with the studio and all this other shit to help him out. But in terms of a live concert, thumbs down.
Oh yeah. Oh really? Okay.
That's just my opinion. I hope it's not anybody else's opinion. But let's move on, Zach.